Welcome to Akhand Vidyashram, the first institute of impeccable wisdom. Let me discuss with Protozoa, the asexual procreation and the first unicellular organism. We have started from atom, elements, molecule, compound to the cell level, but how life started and how things came from the universe right up to the earth and how life started as such. But coming to the state that I am talking of impeccable wisdom for the first unit and also giving divine mathematics of Divyank for the first time in the history of mankind from 2015, to come to this particular state, it is not something which happened in one day out of spontaneous as such. This is a journey of many lives. In the process, conscious or super conscious awareness of education, enlightenment, empowerment started as a child itself. And I have gone on record, nothing happens in state, everything is sequence of matter. So each stage gives you different challenges and you cross that challenge and then you go to higher and higher levels of consciousness, and that's how I moved on from zero level to Divyank step by step over a period. But in this particular video I am going to reveal something which should have been done by everybody till date, but unfortunately even today things have not changed, and that may be the result of Divyank and also this particular question. My question is, we have come a long way in divine mathematics, physics, chemistry, medical sciences, as well as the equipments are fantastic. But unfortunately, when come to the primary education, the basic education, the research and publication in mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology and medical sciences is not as perfect as I would like it. And maybe that is the reason I am coming to the state and bringing out those defects which should have been corrected by so many research scholars, even Nobel laureates before. Unfortunately, nobody has done it. So, to come to this stage of clarity, it has taken me so many years of reflection on the defects and realize that everybody is talking of imperfection, nobody is talking of perfection, and perfection has to be started, and that is what I started in school in Katra itself, then moved on to Jammu and then Madras Medical College and thereafter. But this question of protozoa, asexual, what is the defect which I noticed way back in school in Jammu itself? Now I am giving you an unusual statement. I studied higher secondary course in Jammu, Sir ML Higher Shri Ranveer Multilateral Higher Secondary School, Jammu, Jammu and Kashmir. The Jammu and Kashmir Board of Examination was controlling the examinations of higher secondary core, the 10th standard and 11th standard elective as such. And very interesting, I got record breaking marks in 10th standard, which was unheard of at that particular moment of time, and I do wonder whether in future anybody will be able to break my record of 1968 even in future anywhere in the world. It's just not going to be possible. I'm going to show you that. For 11th standard I studied medical subject, not non-medical subject, no maths, no physics, no chemistry as such, no English. Instead of mathematics, it was biology with physics, chemistry and English. These are the four subjects in 11th standard. And how make a difference between medical course and non-medical, which is mathematical based, because in mathematics you get 200 out of 200 is very easy. To get 200 out of 200 in biology is impossible. Nobody can ever get it because there is no precision of that nature, and that is something which I am going to show. As a result, I also make a statement, medical course as a result of the difference in biology and mathematics can never get top 3 positions anywhere in the board, school, university at all. As a result, they have to be treated separately. But since ours was everything together, medical and non-medical together, finally valued, there is something which happened which was amazing, but I think this laid a foundation for me to correct things, go step by step to come to the stage of Divyank. The process of eliminating all the defects started in school in Katra and much more precise in Jammu, and then of course in medical college and research and other things. Everything has been totally under perfection. Now I am glad that I managed to get one of the T3 positions in medical course in higher secondary elective, maybe for the first time in history of mankind, and I wondered whether somebody will be able to do it hereafter. Now the differences between first position, second position becoming zero. Now I am going to show the example how a particular question which I am talking about makes a difference as a child, as a student in the school itself. Now giving the evidence on 1961 core examination, this is the gazette, and you can see my name getting 532. Incidentally, second one 504, Arun Kumar was my student only, you can see next to me only, but nobody else got more than 500. The difference of 532, almost 6% between me and somebody else, makes a difference which is going to be impossible thereafter. But that was only up to 10th standard. We had 8 subjects of different nature, but not a medical course as such. And incidentally, I have said that my name was Shiv Bhushan Sharma because of family, which was converted to Shiv Bhushan Sharma, which is my actual name. Now come to the question, an exemplary school certificate in this particular thing. When I left 11th standard, provisional certificate was given to me. But incidentally, in this particular thing, the conduct and character is not exemplary. And I don't think any school student anywhere in the world would have deserved to get an exemplary, or rather the only person to get exemplary based on the performance in school from all these classes may be unusual, but I am glad that laid a foundation that you have to prove worthy of being an example all your life, and that example started right at school. It continued in college and continued in university. It continues even today, day by day. As a result, I want to see that entire world has a perfect education from school, college, university, particularly maths, physics, chemistry, biology and other things, and that was the foundation laid in school in Jammu itself. Now there comes the question, a genuine question. Why did I get these rare awards? Position, brain marks, and also medical student getting position is something unheard of. My superconscious examination answer was the result, and I have gone on to say a question is answered in such a way that answer itself has a question in it. Once you say the process, you are going to reward even in oral viva concentration completely, because this is where you make the person feel intelligent, and examiner also learns from you, and that is also something I have spoken about. Now come to my higher secondary elective examination. The question which changed my life completely, with the record, what is asexual reproduction of protozoa, was read in biology question, 15 marks as an essay. This was the question, and at that given moment of time, the information given in any book which was taught in the best of the books in the world wouldn't have been more than half a page. But when I answered that question, it was more than 7 pages, and the answer was so beautiful that I got the maximum marks in biology, which bridged the gap between the first, second and third position with the medical science of mathematics, and I could recover. I think that was a turning point, because whatever happens lays the foundation for future. Nothing happens erratically. If you want to be consistently breaking record, you should be like a flight, like an aeroplane, not peaks and valleys. And the question and the answer which I gave in this particular question is to be seen in a very subtle way in this. I raised certain questions and answered in advance something which unfortunately has not been done even till today. And the question was raised in 1968, 57 years ago, and the answer was given 57 years ago. And even after 57 years, that correction has not been done which was raised in that particular answer in that question. No wonder I got the maximum, and I think deserve to do. Can a school student be a research scholar? Is raising a question on the question itself and then giving the answers which are not found in any book, and you are hardly a 15 years young boy or 16 years young boy. I think that speaks volumes. That is why I keep saying, if you are a truthful, honest person with in tune with universal consciousness within your inner self completely, you get all the answers automatically, because purity is important. You got to be pure vegetarian. You should not be doing anything which will make your consciousness defective. Now let me comprehend the subject of the protozoas as and one which is going to be in a very subtle way, but I would say how things changed and how things should be changed, how we got to make a difference. Now the question comes, before I go to Kapil Vriksha, where is the tree of primordial chemistry, where I would say the divine consciousness as such created atom, element, molecules and compounds in the universe. They came down with the rain to the mountains, to the valleys, to the rivers, to the ocean, and the biological life started ocean as such. This is the tree is from the roots at the top, from that it's coming down, and how the things start at the bottom. I think that way Kapil Vriksha is a very important concept in Sanatana Dharma, and I think that is what intelligence is all about. Where you start consciously. Don't be a copycat reader and answer questions. Now comes the question of the amazing equilibrium of the world as such. This is the divine mathematics and divine physics, divine chemistry, divine biology and divine medical sciences should learn from this particular video, or maybe this particular slide. An amazing equilibrium. As I said, the descent of carbon dioxide and water was there in the universe, and I have said all the 4 major planets from Mercury to Venus to Earth to Mars had 97% carbon dioxide, and with the water they came down. That is, the descent of carbon dioxide and water was very clear on this, but particularly on Earth we are going to talk about it. Then on the Earth, in the presence of sunlight, carbon dioxide and water which came down, they formed glucose and oxygen. No wonder 97% carbon dioxide is converted into 21% oxygen on the Earth, and this equilibrium is maintained. Now the animal cells as such use carbohydrate and oxygen and produce carbon dioxide and water in the process. The whole equilibrium of carbon dioxide, water to glucose to oxygen to carbon dioxide, this particular equilibrium is maintained even today. That is where I call divine design is very clear. When I talk of carbon dioxide, it has got 22 protons. When I talk of water, it has got 10, and both are the part and parcel of Divyank as such. So that is the reason I am trying to show Devyank everywhere. Here also the same story. Now comes to point divine mathematics. As I said, hydrogen, carbon and oxygen, 3 together formed carbohydrate. Water with carbon, CH2O into 6 is glucose. Now glucose is used as starch and stored for this thing, which also is converted into lipids and proteins also in the process, and maybe energy molecules actually thereafter. I think this is where the next stage of elementary chemistry to inorganic chemistry to organic chemistry to biochemistry goes step by step. How 3 things come very important: carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, and how this combination with the protein comes nitrogen, and with the energy things with phosphate. The 5: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen and phosphate is energy, and that's it. Now come to the beginning of biology. As I told you, it started the warm saline water of the ocean, not anywhere else, because the life to start needed water, needed saline, little warm temperature of 37 degrees or little that is much more conducive for developing, not less than 37 degrees. Zero thing, nothing will happen. everything has to be that. So that is, ocean becomes the prime source of new life altogether. All the requirement of this life came from ocean water, and products were expelled into the ocean. That is something to be understood. And beginnings are the unicellular organism. When I said protozoa is unicellular organism, and unicellular organism evolved into multicellular organism over a period. And the human best multicellular examination is a perfect human being with a perfect DNA is fantastic. But now come to the question of protozoa. That is the word which have to be understood. Let me explain step by step as we go on to that. Now the question of, before we go to this end, let's talk about the difference between plant cells and the animal cells. You see in this picture very clearly the 8 points in the center which are common between animal and plant. But plant has got a cell membrane cytochloroplast which can produce oxygen in the plant. This is green in color, and this makes the plant cell very strong. So things from outside cannot go in, so we need energy, oxygen as such, primarily to do that. Are there some energy form to do? So most of the time the oxygen is produced in most of the plant during morning sunrise as well as sunset, when ultraviolet and other things we have already explained. But banyan tree can produce 24 hours, maybe aloes can produce at night, that's one. But point is, it is a chloroplast which is important in that, and chloroplast has got its own energy molecule including DNA. I have already shown that DNA in plants is 7 layers, DNA in human being is 10.344. Once this is understood, you can go to the next stage much better in the process. Now come to the concept of the protozoa. Historically, protozoa are regarded as one-celled animals. Agree. Protozoa are polyphyletic group of single-celled eukaryotes. Protozoa are either free-living or parasite single-celled organisms living on other products, that is parasites. Protozoa exhibit animal nature such as motility and procreation. Protozoa do not have a hard cell membrane like the plants and algae. That is one thing which is very clear. Now the question of qualification of the term protozoa continue to be used in loose way to describe single-celled protists. That is, it said that is not animal, plant or fungi that feed on heterozoa, but in the process are given as a amoeba as the first thing as a part of the protozoa. But now why it is called protozoa? Zoa mean zoology, that means it is animal life, whereas botany is from plant kingdom, zoology is into animal kingdom. But is it really zoology? Is it a real animal, or it is plant, or it is something in between? That's a question which I say protozoa is not animal as such. That's it. So term protozoa as the first animal is not to be done. It has to be considered something different because it doesn't have the typical things of the animal cells or the plant cells. They are in between like viruses and things. It is a transition from plant kingdom cells to the animal cell step by step. That is the question which I have raised in my answer to produce 7 pages, and in cell this is what it is, but unfortunately it has not been corrected even till today. We continue to use protozoa as such. Now historical, but I am glad by 1970 it became usual to require all the texta like monophyletic, all members being derived from one common ancestor, that is self-recorded as belonging in the text. That means everything comes from the same thing. It is a procreation in the form, you fall into that concept completely. That is where classification started becoming clearer. But it was after 1968, not before that internationally, but they again, and that is regarded as belonging to, and holophyletic consisting of all known descendants of that common existence became a question of discussion but inconclusive by and large. The extent protozoa fails to meet these standards So grouping protozoa with animals and treating them as closely related is no longer justifiable. And I am glad today slowly they have raised the question, but they have not changed. But this is where I would like to change. Hence, let us discuss Omoza as an example, not as a protozoa as such. Now comes the structure of protozoa or particular thing. Let's have this particular thing. These are the shapes. And what is important in this particular thing, how they grow further. They do not have spores, they do not have seeds, they do not have sexual reproduction, they grow by themselves. And what they grow is a pedophyte. Whole thing goes, how they go further and convert and divide into further goes on. This I am going to be explained much more in E. coli thing, how division takes place beautifully in 10 stages as such. But here this is how they grow. Now the different types of examples, you have say protozoa, you have amoeba, you have other things. These are different structures. We have few examples. I would say fine, very good. Now this is how the asexual procreation of amoeba, how the movement comes, how they go and how further division takes place, how further divide and more out of it. And I think this is where I would say the principle of 22 by 21 is very clear. That means it's a circular, could be plane circular of 21 into 21, and procreation or the further development of the movement of protozoa or amoeba as such comes at stage as further going into 22 21. Let's take it as it is. That is what it is all about. Now come to the question of how the feeding take place. Now this is the concept which I am talking about. Amoeba eats bacteria, as such they actually try to rectify the problem. Now you can see bacteria coming very close to amoeba and it is trying to create a endo thing. It is going to come inside, and this is first stage is closed, second is a hole is made and it is sucked into that hole, and that is endocytosis. And endocytosis, inside it goes, and how lysosomes by and large break it and consume it and throw it off inside and through exocytes again. There's a beautiful process of endocytosis exists. Now coming to a question of understanding essence very clearly. Here you have a process how they can take bacteria, clean it up and do very well. And although these things are problematic, amoebiasis as such, but they are useful quite a lot. Many of the lactobacilli other which are in the good bacteria are good things in even the gastrointestinal system of human being. But what is more important, the cell of amoeba or a protozoa by and large is not like human being. Human beings, the cell membrane is made of 7 parts, cytoplasm 7 parts, and nucleus also 7 parts. 7 plus 7 plus 7 is 21 parts. But you don't see that in amoeba, you don't see in protozoa. You do not have centrosomes as such, you have only nucleus, and you have a very simple thing, and you don't have many things which could be. But anyway, I leave it at the question. This protozoa should be replaced and make the concentration with some name which is internationally accepted as a class transition from plant kingdom to the animal kingdom, as the transmission where viruses, fungi, algae, etc. come to play a role, which as unicellular organisms grow in itself and they do function very well. That could be a terminology which I am talking about. And having said that, I think let us leave it at that stage. Expect that internationally they will rectify, because certain things have to be done by international academia coming under the World Health Organization of things, where the uniformity throughout the world come to understand key disease. I do not want any one nation to as such say this is. They should bring uniform based on wisdom and wisdom. I think that is more important. Having come to this particular stage, I think let us really accept it. There are certain defects which need to be done. That was the defects which I raised, questioned, and we have not, and I think that is the kind of answer which you learn to do, and all Akhand Vidyashram is doing to raise those questions and eliminate all the defects and bring the impeccable wisdom for the first time. And I hope that over a period, through artificial intelligence and other thing, entire world will start following what is written clearly with all the concentration, contemplation, with the perfection as such by Akhand Vidyashram, and that should become the teaching entire world. And I think with that hope, let's go on to the next stage later. Thank you very much.